So the objective of the National Education Trust really is straightforward. The objective is the easy part. The objective is to mobilize funding from the private sector, the diaspora, and the international donor community for infrastructure in education. So the task really is to develop a framework to prioritize, because everything in infrastructure and education is worthwhile. So the biggest task that we had to kind of come up with is what do we prioritize? And so before going into the strategy, I think it may be helpful to just tell everyone what the guiding principles were that we used in coming up with this. So as I said, the first guiding principle is everything is worthwhile. Everything is going to look worthwhile, but our resources are infinite. So in coming up with our list, we were pretty disciplined about prioritizing areas in which we could use our funds and your funds most efficiently. So that's the first principle. The second principle is what counts is what we as a board finish and not what we as a board start. And so we're going to place a premium on having fewer simpler goals. We're going to tell you about 3. It's not a long list, it's just 3. And we prefer to focus on those small, humble successes if we can completely finish them in our tenure with your resources, rather than have more audacious objectives. Because we know that in our environment, having small success is going to build the momentum we need to see the task through. So that's number 2. Number 3 is that our goals need to match your funding, the funding of your international sources of funding, as well as our local funding. And they need to be of a size that we can realistically accommodate at the National Education Trust and execute. And perhaps least obvious for us initially, but what we now think is critically important, and I was talking to Chairman Easy about this earlier, things that are scalable and modular are very exciting for us, because success is not about a large outcome that's either completed or not, that's binary, but things that are modular, that we can do at varying levels, where we can do 1 school, 2 schools, 10 schools, or 100 schools. And last but not least, Minister, especially, we want to focus on things that add value to the government of Jamaica. So for example, if we're mobilizing funds for things that are already being worked on adequately in the consolidated fund, we know that we're contributing, but we're not adding the maximum value. Where we see the maximum value is where we can focus on areas that are less easily addressed by the central government, or that complement the money that Minister and Permanent Secretary that you are spending in the central government, and we can complement that in obvious ways. So we applied that filter. We met with stakeholders throughout the education sector, our own team at NET, and of course the Minister and his team. And so we've chosen 3 areas that we'd like to focus on in our tenure as a board for the next, for our tenure for 3 years. And they are renewable energy solutions, information technology equipment, and water and sanitation. All of these being infrastructure to do with education. So let me start by speaking about renewable energy. And this is, thankfully, of the 3, the one that we've made the most progress on so far. As everybody knows, cost of energy is one of the single largest line items in the budget of the Ministry of Education. And so deploying renewable energy solutions, of course, is an opportunity to reduce that risk, reduce that expense materially. But it also offers an opportunity to expose students to science and technology, as well as to energy conservation. And so to execute on this critical area of focus, the National Education Trust is already piloting the installation of PV solar solutions in 30 schools across the country. This is already underway. There's an enterprise team that exists in a collaboration across the government at the DBJ. And this is a public-private partnership where the panels are going to be funded by private developers at no cost to the taxpayer. And they will recoup that investment through periodic payments from the schools and the ministry, which are cheaper than the current utility bills. And so this is completely, it's not a cost to taxpayers, it saves money, and it fulfills our mandate of bringing private resources into education. The estimated cost for the schools, just in the pilot project, just the 30 schools, is $200 million a year. So we're confident that we can deliver a meaningful reduction on this. The project couldn't have been possible without the support of donor partners, both locally in the form of the DBJ and internationally in the form of the World Bank. So on behalf of the National Education Trust and the Enterprise team, we'd like to say thank you to both those organizations for their support. So the next area of focus, which is not as advanced as renewable energy, is information technology equipment. And we certainly believe, and I don't think it's a controversial statement, that for a student to be able to participate in the workforce of tomorrow in any capacity, fluency with technology is critical. We know that there's a lot of good work and projects that have been carried out over the years to increase access to technology for teaching and learning. So this is not a novel suggestion by any means, and a lot of good work has been done, but we think a chasm still remains that needs to be bridged. And the fundamental premise, frankly, is that we believe that every school should have consistent access to the internet today, and that learning tools, a variety of learning tools, whether they're smart boards or other systems, are important in terms of level the playing field for our students and their counterparts in other countries. It's an ambitious objective to completely fill that gap, but this is an example of one of the modular solutions I spoke about earlier, where success is not necessarily defined as completely solving this problem, but we can size this at a school by school level, and we can build momentum, and we can address the greatest needs and work backwards. And so unlike solar, this isn't as developed, but we will be coming to you in the months ahead with a more specific ask about how to improve this critical problem. The final of the 3 areas of focus for the Board of the National Education Trust is water and sanitation. The ministry and other agencies have been making significant inroads to remove pit latrines from basic schools, and this is an effort that has spanned multiple administrations, and I think is one that we all need to recognize as being a significant improvement. And however, that's on the pit latrine side, of course, but many of these schools don't have piped water. This is something that I didn't appreciate before taking on this role fully, I have to be honest, at the extent of it. And many of these schools they have tanks, they have to pay for trucked water that's quite expensive, and there are long periods of time when there's not basic hygiene and water in the schools, and so we think that's unacceptable. Fortunately, many of these schools are in areas where there's significant rainfall that can be harvested. So the ministry and the National Education Trust are actively seeking to develop harvesting systems in approximately 360 schools. This serves a student population of over 160,000 people, students. This is a specific ask, which the price tag of which is only $1.9 million on average per school, okay? So this is an area where an individual person here from even a small local foundation or company can make a difference in a very specific way and can see a direct addressing of a need at this modest level. And so, like on the IT front, this is an area where Marcia, Latoya, myself, and the rest of our team will be coming to you and approaching this community in the months ahead with more details on that. And in a moment, I'm going to leave you with a short video that speaks about water and the impact of an inadequate water supply in schools that I think can make the point better than I can. But before I do, I'd just like to once again say thank you very much for taking the time, especially so early in the morning, for attending. What I can say is I think the National Education Trust now has a clear set of priorities, and we believe we have a strong leadership team at the management level in place. And Minister, thank you very much for your support. We think we also have the support of the ministry as well. And we look forward to collaborating with all of you in the days and in the months ahead. So Over to the video.
And we're speechless. I suspect that the presentation, both oral and the video, speak eloquently, and I have no further comment. Mr. Brian Bennett Easy, Chair of the Overseas Examinations Commission, will now come and make his presentation. Following Brian, I'll be back to make 2 brief introductions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. I will follow Nicholas's lead and try to be as brief as possible. So in strict observance, all protocols are considered observed. Again, good morning to you all. And I know we just had breakfast, you know, but, or maybe it's a presentation that you know, what I tell you, that really sheds a picture on a lot of work that needs to be done. The Overseas Examination Commission that I chair was established to provide educational support services relating to the conduct of examinations and in keeping with the broader mandate and vision of the Ministry of Education in particular and in general government of Jamaica. Accordingly, the OEC has remained true to its mission to effectively and efficiently administer and provide examination access and to provide accompanying support services with the highest level of integrity while being sensitive to the needs of its customers over our 129 years in service to Jamaica. By doing so, the Commission has gained regional and international recognition and the confidence of examining bodies worldwide. We're very proud of that recognition, and it is testimony to our efforts to preserve the integrity of examinations that we administer with the highest level of security, integrity, and service excellence, even in times of scarce resources. The OET strategic plan is generally developed in the context of the government's desire to move the Jamaican economy through the creation of jobs and ultimately increased employment. We understand the implications of such a strategic direction, and so we've joined our parent ministry, related agencies, the Caribbean Examinations Council, and others to facilitate the acquiring of essential qualifications to all students at the secondary and tertiary levels and even beyond. But what of the ability of students to sit exams? The motto and the objective of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information is every child can learn, every child must learn. While this is and always will be the truth, the economic challenge facing Jamaica is also real and significant challenge for many individuals hoping to capitalize on the opportunities that education brings. Many students have spent years in high school preparing for examinations for which they are sadly unable to pay the fees and ultimately they are unable to sit the exams. In 2005, the government of Jamaica committed to and began to pay examination fees annually for 4 subjects for all Jamaican students in high school at grades 11 or 5th form: English A, Math, Information Technology, and 1 science subject. Unfortunately, the financial constraints facing the country prohibit the expansion of this subsidy. Indeed, even the current management of the existing subsidy is a challenge. Although the challenge is great, the Commission remains committed to the Ministry of Education's mission of certifying all students, as well as CXC's vision of globally certifying competitive human resources. The OEC is committed to working creatively with all our stakeholders and partners to mitigate the impact of negative economic and other factors so that more students will be able to write and gain acceptable grades in the short to medium term. The skills profile of Jamaica's labor force is an important area to be strengthened if Jamaica is to tackle the transformation of its labor market. Training for employment demands and the needs of businesses as well as overseas opportunities must be an important strategic objective for education in Jamaica. A quote which encapsulates our objective from Herman J. Steiner says, "The education you get today is what makes you tomorrow." It is a sentiment that is difficult to challenge. The Ministry of Education has enjoyed private sector support in enabling many students preparing for their tomorrow by being able to sit CXC exams at the secondary level. I would like to take the time to salute 3 valued partnerships. The National Commercial Bank, through its foundation, has for more than 12 years funded bursaries for thousands of Jamaican students to cover the examination costs of 2 subjects, Principles of Accounts and Principles of Business. This has enabled many young Jamaicans to take this important step to achieving their educational dreams. This will mark the 3rd year that the Spanish Jamaica Foundation will be subsidizing fees relating to Spanish CSEC exams by paying the fees for oral examinations for students in Western Jamaica. And yesterday, our most recent partner, Jamaica Public Service Foundation, signed a memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Education for the payment of fees for students sitting the CSEC electrical and electronic technology examinations in the upcoming May-June